Hello and welcome back to the Bad Kitty podcast. I am your co-host Jen, and this is Amy. And we are happy to be back to you this week with lots of fun things to talk about. We just got back from a trip, and I don't think we're talking about that this week, are we?
Maybe only in two parts you don't always know about.
I don't know everything. I love surprises. So we're going to remind you who we are. We're Amy and Jen, and we are resisting lots of things through joy. And today we're going to talk to you a little bit about that. Amy?
Okay, so I woke up in the middle of the night, 3:00, about a week ago. I'm just telling you this story. And I came up with some topics. So I got up and wrote. I could read some of them. And these were them. They were how we're finding friendship, because friendship is our joy this week that we're talking about. And we're finding it while we serve others. And then we also are finding while we're serving others, our authentic connections. And that's the whole friendship thing, but we'll expand upon that. And also when we're using our creativity, doing things out there just to explore the joy of being creative. So those are our 3 bullet points.
Yeah, those are our 3 main categories. And then we're going to talk through each one of those and give examples about how we met and how we participate in activities in those 3 categories. We're also going to do our first installment of Happy or Chappy.
That's right. I can't wait. That's part of the surprise today.
That's very exciting. I don't know what she's talking about, but Happy or Chappy is our little segment where we talk about what is making us happy or what is chapping our ass. Asses? I never know. Anyway, so that's what we're going to do today. So we're going to kick it off with the fact that we find friendship through serving others.
Right. Okay. So mine, I've been involved with groups for about 7 or 8 years, probably with PFLAG, maybe more. PFLAG is an ally support group that we started up here in Edwardsville. It's a national organization. We made a chapter. And so if you have a member in the LGBTQ community, a loved one, you come to these meetings once a month and we show you how to be a better ally for them. So that's where I met a lot of wonderful people dating back to when it was in Belleville, because we really took the Belleville chapter and brought it up here. Great people that I still speak with, people that I do a lot of tabling and market events and stuff. We go to Pride the whole month of June. Don't look for me. I am very busy making friends every day at the table, just creating a ton of connections through that. And I've dragged you to a few of those little PFLAG things here and there. The thing I do personally is Edwardsville Unity. I found out about that a couple of years ago, and they said they throw a big party in the park every year. Well, if you know me, I love a party. So I said, I want to be part of that party team. And then I was, and it's great people there, but we do more than a party every year. We have lots of engagements throughout the year, speaker series, we have concerts, we did a dance fundraiser, which is always fun. Jen boogied down.
That was fun.
I half boogied. I don't boogie. And then the other thing we did was a Women's Day a Women's Day event, which had speakers and songs and poets. It was great. So we do all sorts of things throughout the year, and I have amazing friendships through that. I've also brought Jen into the fold on that one. Sometimes begrudgingly, but I just keep bringing her back.
I love Unity. I just don't believe in it, but it's wonderful.
And I tell her, no, we're going to do this. And the last thing I think you and I both found this one together. It's MEMA, Metro East Mutual Aid. And we do that through our friend Sharon. And she is a minister of a really cool church. And we just go to her space and help to give out diapers or organize things that people are going to be picking up for the diaper drive. It's secular, I would say. It's in a religious kind of community, but this particular event, and one of the reasons we're involved with it, is it's not religious. It's just helping people. And so we've met some really great people through there and developed some good friendships through the MEMA.
Definitely. And that's through the Rooted community. We mentioned Sharon's a reverend, and her community is called the Rooted community in Granite City. What Amy and I are involved in is MEMA, which, as she said, is distributing diapers and wipes and other items that are needed by young families to people who may not be able to acquire those supplies in other ways. Many times they, are the societal conditions of homelessness or being underemployed or being under-resourced through government assistance. And so this is a way that Sharon put together along with others to create a mutual aid group. But this particular support that we provide is for the babies and families. And yeah, we kind of found that at the same time through sort of different ways, and then realized we were going to the same place, and now we just do it together, which is fun. I love volunteering with you. It's so much fun. Volunteering in itself is, especially for something that you really believe passionately in, which is supporting young families, because we know from experience that having young children is really hard. And then if you, on top of that, don't have access to food or proper shelter, it's exponentially harder. And so that's just one way that we figure we can help the people who are coordinating the help. So our goal is to support Sharon as she runs this program. Something that I wanted to bring up here, I agree with all the things that Amy listed, and I have enjoyed being dragged along to those. And we'll talk another time about why I don't believe in unity, but I do believe in the idea of it. I also do one-on-one helping, and this is a little bit more awkward because it's having to be vulnerable and offer help to someone who has to then be vulnerable to accept help. And so it's higher stakes, right? It feels comfortable to show up at MEMA on time, even though I'm a gentleman, I'm late and I make you late a long way. But that feels comfortable and easy. And I also really like challenging myself. I like to make people uncomfortable, including myself. I believe that growth begins at the end of your comfort zone. And so offering one-to-one help has been really rewarding. And I'm learning how to do that in ways that were different than the ways I did it when I was a child. My family was into helping others, but there was a lot of expectation of gratitude from it. And being in these spaces, it's like, I just really want to help you because it's helping me as well. And so it's truly mutual aid because I get a lot out of it as well. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah,
serving others.
I enjoy when we get a new parent that comes into PFLAG or trans parent, another group I'm involved in, and they're raw and they're just so new at this concept that they have a trans kid. So that's where I really thrive on the one-to-one. Just bringing this new person in.
Trans kids belong. That's what's written on Amy's shirt. For those of you who don't have the pleasure of watching us right now, I'm very sorry that you're missing out. Amy's wearing a blue shirt with a trans pride rainbow and trans kids belong.
HRC.
Yeah, we both feel very, very strongly about that we want to be in spaces where we normalize talking about what it's like to be a parent of a transgender person. And the goal and what we work to get toward is celebrating and supporting our children so that they can stay alive and so they can thrive. But it's complicated sometimes because we have plans that we made for the child that we thought we had. And then when our child comes back later and says, yeah, I've always been carrots inside this can of peas. If you'd ever, opened up the top, you would have seen carrots, even though the can of peas was the label on the outside. And so sometimes people say, I'm not allowed to refer to my child as the name I gave them. And that's really hard for me. And one thing that helped me when I was working through my feelings about loss of plans I made for the child I had, then I realized that they were always the person that they are today. It just took a while for me to see the insides, or for them to let me know that their insides were different than their outsides. And so helping other parents learn those little bitty tricks to change your mindset is a real joy.
Yeah. And that's the one-on-one I get from all the other groups, even the parents who come to me. You just spend a minute when you're wiping the little kid's nose and helping them or carrying their stuff down to the car. So
yeah, that's huge. They come in and, let's grab a swaddler and, do you need any of this supply or that one? And so we really enjoy doing that and just taking a moment to support the parents as they come in. And that's really nice.
And we don't need the meetings. We just show up for the help.
Yeah, we're not able to do meetings. We kind of want to
We're meeting out. I'm meeting out. I got quite a few.
She has quite a few meetings and I just don't do them anymore. I gave it up. I like to say I gave it up with COVID, but that's not true. I gave it up when I quit corporate.
Yeah, corporate.
So no more meetings. No more meetings.
Not there yet.
So as we're serving others, you might say, well, how do you make friends in that environment? Well, the thing is, if you're showing up at a place that's talking about serving others, then you're of similar mindsets. Certainly there are lots of different viewpoints within the service of others, but perhaps you've got that in common. And then for me, it's moving on to the next phase, which is sort of, why are you here? And I'm really interested to know why people are there, just letting them tell me their story, not that I'm going up and doing an interview, although you never know with me, but really, I want to know that you're there for, just selfless service. Like, I have the time, this is a need. I believe in supporting young families. Amy used to nanny, has 3 children. I've been around babies my whole life, used to be a daycare teacher, and, I have 3 children. And so we really understand. And I was a very low income single mom. And so I have a heart for helping them. And then it's easy to do those things when you have people there that are like-minded to you, and then you can find out if you have other interests in common. I think the biggest thing, though, is vulnerability. Yeah, and we can talk about that with our next.
Yeah, our next topic, our next bullet point is authentic connections and where you make those. We've picked out 3 of them, and it's making authentic connections with people, making authentic connections with animals, and in nature. Turns out I can make connections in nature. I didn't know that. I'm really a city mouse.
Yes.
Yeah, I find critters abhorrible, and I still kind of do.
Mhm.
They're important to me. I'm not a huge critter fan, so don't be coming at me with your critters. They're not there yet. But I like being on the lake.
Yes.
I had no idea I liked to kayak until late last summer. And my pretend little brother, my new little brother Kevin, would tell you I took a pass on kayaking with him because I didn't think I liked kayaking. That was a mistake. So I find just a lot of joy in nature and connecting with our friends when we go on the lake. We've been kayaking probably late July or something. Kayaked a couple months over at Judy's Lake.
Yes.
I had never done it, so Judy taught me how to do it. And I've known Judy for a very long time, but I've gotten to know her more personally this last year because, many of these connections we talked about in kayaking. Yeah, she has kayaks and a lake.
And I met Judy when we were both volunteering at the overnight warming locations. It was not this past season, but the one before. We were hospitality, and we worked together in the kitchen serving breakfast, and really liked her. And then my circle just kept expanding. And when Julie put out a call for people to come over to kayak, Amy and I were invited separately because Judy didn't even know that we were, becoming such good friends. And so we spent more time with Judy, gone over to visit her a bit. And so it's just, it's being authentic and making those connections with people. And, and with Judy, we were able to do that while we were in nature at her home on the lake. And then we've been for hikes in the woods.
Yeah, I didn't know I liked hiking. Went for a short little hike in Highland. We were going to go kayaking, but it was a little too windy. And I saw whitecaps on that Silver Lake. And I said, no. So
no, nobody needs that. Well, nobody here needs that.
I'm not going.
Somebody out there might need that, but we are not.
That takes me back to the canoe incident. So then I said, let's not do that. And she said, let's just go on the little trail. Okay. This is new for me. And so we went hiking on the trail. It was probably about a half hour. So
yeah,
I even saw a frog.
Yes, she saw a frog.
I'm not a fan of frogs.
Stopped in our tracks. And
she said, you can do this. Walk past the frog. Whole other story sometime on that. But then when we came back, I think that frog was still there.
It was still there. He wasn't moving. He might have still been hibernating or something. Do frogs hibernate? I think sure.
Yeah. So we made it.
Yeah.
And then we hiked in West Virginia. Now, this is not the trail like Silver Lake. It's Silver Lake, right?
Right.
It is not that kind of trail. Jen,
there was no trail.
Jen, tell them what this was.
Well, West Virginia is where one of our kitty herders, kitty herder Ace, he has property there. His family has had it for years with all of the things that means. But they've had it for years. And now my kitty handler, Ace.
Sometimes he's a handler. Most of the time they're herders.
Yes. We have kitty herders, Rusty and Ace, and they also herd, cross-functionally, just depends on how it's needed. And then they handle us. They herd us to get us to go to the place they want us to go to, and they handle us when we become unmanageable.
Yeah. And just grab our little paw.
Kitty's been a kitty. It's really stupid, but it's also such joy. It's silly. It's just silly. That's it. And we're just having so much fun while doing it. So we do authentically connect with people, with animals. We love pets. You are crazy for dogs. Just love dogs.
And I don't mind cats.
Yeah.
But yeah, dogs, I have dogs all the time here. One time we had a total of 5 dogs, 3 of ours and 2 guest dogs because people needed babysat. And I've turned into a little kennel.
Yeah,
which is fine. Nice. I love the kennel. As long as the puppies get along, we're pretty strict.
They're pretty regimented.
We got it locked down tight. So so I've met great people. Oh my gosh, here's the story. So I'm standing with my protest sign all by myself on the court steps because I don't think I knew you that well at that point.
No, we didn't.
I'm there and I look over and I see a dog and I'm talking to this lady and she mentioned that, she needs to find a pet sitter. And I said, I'm a pet sitter. And so she contacted me and now Jan brings Phoebe over once a month for a visit.
Phoebe is the most beautiful dog. She is a
So sweet.
golden
Yeah, she's a
retriever.
golden.
She has the longest, most beautiful hair. Her hair is so long, you could like pull a strand and leave it in somebody's car, and they're thinking there was a beautiful,
lady.
long, redheaded lady.
That would be wrong. But yeah, Phoebe loves Matt. She climbs up on Matt's lap every day when she's staying. She's waiting for Matt to get done with work, and they're best friends. So Matt makes connections with the animals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a huge, the kitty handlers, Ace and Rusty, are just going to be a big part of this because they are involved in all of this joy as well. So, and the last one?
It's people. So we make connections with people basically just everywhere we go. You know, we wear a pin, we wear a shirt, we're making connections. You know, I always wear a statement piece. If I don't have a statement piece, I have a statement pin. And we get so many comments. So you're just making a connection there at the grocery store. I like your pin. And then it opens a conversation. Or in the restaurant, and someone's like, oh man, I love that shirt. So I'm like, I'm trans too, but my parents don't accept me. And so, you know, we're just finding authentic way to connect to people.
And sending signals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because all of that messaging is a signal, and it lets people know that they may be safe with you. Wearing a pin doesn't make you safe, folks. That's why you go to PFLAG and learn how to be allies. You can wear all the pins you want, but it doesn't make you safe. But it lets people know that you may be safe for them. And then
it opens up a conversation.
It opens up, just like you said, it opens conversation. And hopefully, if you care about the LGBTQ people in your life, you are doing more to become a great ally. But that is how we connect with people. You know, from time to time, something I'm wearing sparks a conversation with someone who isn't necessarily on my side, who doesn't necessarily see the world the way I see it.
You're right about that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
I've had that.
Yep. Those conversations come up. And, you know, my effort in that time is to remember that I want less violence against LGBTQ people. And while, you know, it might be that I want to tell them off and really put them in their place, which I do want to do that very, very much. I also know that as an ally to the community, even though I'm bisexual, I do not face any discrimination because of it, because I'm in a relationship that heterosexual and so on. And so just because I identify as part of the community doesn't mean that I'm safe for all people in the LGBTQ community. And it's our job to educate ourselves and to learn about it. And so when I am faced with adversity or admonishment from someone, I really think about, if I retaliate, how will this harm the community that I'm trying to be an ally to? So story time.
Precisely.
Yeah, story time. Highland, Illinois had its first Pride celebration last year. Highland now has an LGBTQ group called Queer Highland. Early on, I helped to kind of put some framework together for that group. We were all coming together to have a Pride celebration for the very first time in Highland last year. Someone that I know drove by and gave us the finger as we were, you know, flipped us off. And so I really wanted to retaliate, to call him out publicly, to make a big deal out of it. But I thought about the impact it could have on the LGBTQ community in Highland. And the last thing I want is for it to have a negative impact for my actions to hurt people I'm trying to be an ally for. So I just told his wife. I sent her a direct message on Facebook and said, hey, say hi to, you know, who for me and let him know we appreciated his gesture.
His wife.
Yeah, it did. I just let his wife know because, you know, I don't need to smear him publicly, but it sure is fun to let her know. Now, just so you all know, I can't send that message to him on Facebook because I have him blocked. But other than that, that's how I handled that one. My goal is never to be a problem or to create a problem for the people I'm an ally for. And so I watched that a lot.
And I understand you're not wanting to do that because we don't want to cause grief for any of our personal people, but beyond. Also, when I've worn a pin and I was at the bike shop in town, it was a trans on one side flag and on the other side was rainbow. So like two flags there. And I knew that this store was probably Christian because it was Joy FM, you know, on the radio there. And so and we've been to his shop a few times, and he said, hey, can I ask you a question about your pen? It's like, what does that flag mean? And that was the trans one. So I explained and I made a connection and we chatted about it. And he said, you know, I never want anyone to come to my store that feels like I'm not going to accept them. We do get, I think, trans people in here. So I'm glad to have this conversation with you about trans kids or trans people because I didn't know much. I want to learn. But, you know, I could tell he was very religious or believed a lot, and that's fine. God made trans people, so that's fine. But was able to take that conversation and just plant a little seed. And that's what I like to say that we do to the people that don't necessarily get it, that we just give them some education, plant a seed, they take it back, and it grows. So there you go.
There you go. And the reason I think that we have been able to build a friendship out of what we've just shared, our mutual aid and service to others, as well as authentic connections, is because everything she just said is how I feel about advocating for trans people. Everything I said is how she feels. And then we help each other grow. We don't just accept that, oh, we're perfect allies, because that doesn't exist. And because language is ever changing, and because spectrums, people are on a sexuality spectrum, a gender spectrum, and many other spectrums, right? Cognitive, independence, all kinds of spectrums. And so we're constantly challenging each other and bringing information to each other to learn so that we can continue to be allies for others. So.
That's right. I want to read you this little card I found on the trip. I brought it down here for you. It says, well, it's kind of these crazy little things on here. I don't know if you can see it.
You can describe it?
Yeah. Two alien heads with stars coming out, and they're reaching, stars coming out of one guy's mouth, and stars are coming out of the other guy's head. This was like thoughts, probably words. It said, I'm glad that the universe has finally arranged its majestic star junk around in such a way that we get to be friends. And I find that with Jen, I find that with other friends that I've made within the last year or two, that I am just so lucky that these people have come together, in all these different groups that I do. And so it's just been a blessing. It's just been so much joy to have these later in life friendships. And I had to offload a few over the years, but it made room for me to bring these new people in.
I want to talk about that a little bit more in depth, because Amy and I have very different experiences with finding friends. And I think I struggle with finding friends. I do a bit of a purity test. And I think through the therapy I've done and starting to get to know myself, it's because I want to feel safe with people. And so it doesn't feel to me like it's that I want everybody to be exactly like me, because I don't think we're exactly the same kind of people, but I do want to feel safe with people. And so it's important to me to be around people who share a similar worldview to mine because of safety concerns. I don't necessarily need physical safety, although that can be a factor, but also just psychological safety. That's psychological safety is the one that I'm working on protecting now because of all the work I've done to, improve my mental health. Psychological safety is key. And whenever I have felt unsafe psychologically, I've ended friendships quickly. But, I've had people end friendships with me as well. And perhaps it was their psychological safety that they were protecting. And here's what I know for sure. If I hadn't done the work that I did to heal, to forgive myself, to accept me for who I am, I would never have been ready for a friendship like this, because I feel so safe psychologically that I no longer need sameness, which is a huge thing for me. I feel psychologically safe to be myself, and that Matt and Amy, the other bad kitty, and her herder, Rusty, that's going to be confusing for us too. So don't worry if you're lost. But I just feel psychologically safe with them. I feel loved by them, accepted by them, and psychologically safe. And then my herder, Ace, he also feels that. And so our group of 4 has become, just great friends. And I think that the key is psychological safety and just being able to be authentic and open and vulnerable. That's the key for me.
Yeah, it really is. That's when you kept saying you're not going to like me. And I was like, I am exactly who you see. There is no pretense. If I like you, I like you. There's no going home and saying, oh my God, I can't wait to offload her. It's all about being my authentic self. So we were just in the same place and able to grow this friendship this past year as we just celebrated. And, I'm sure it'll be around forever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I really think so too. And I certainly hope so, because it's been such a gift. But I can tell you all, I've heard from a couple people who've said, I'm jealous or I'm envious. And I would be too. I don't know how other way to say it, but I've never been this awake and healed before. I have never been
in this space to be able to handle a friendship that was true.
Yeah. And so the friendships I've had over my life, I love those women. I love them, but there were reasons why they ended. And this psychological safety is the key for me, and perhaps for anybody who has CPTSD or a high ACEs score. That's the Adverse Childhood Experiences scale. Psychological safety is key, but I suggest to you that until you are psychologically safe with yourself, you won't pick up on it when other people are psychologically safe for you. And so I know that my therapy work led me to a place where I was ready to be my authentic self and accept someone else their kindness and friendship. And so I've said to Amy many times, I'm so glad I was healed enough to be friends with someone like
which is
you.
why that card made a lot of sense to me. And I'm like, I'm just going to get this, probably frame it.
Well, I love that card. The previous one that reminded you of us, it says, I'm glad we became friends later in life because I don't think my mom would have let me hang out with you. As if.
So our last of the 3 bulletins are creativity and creating authentic friendships through creativity. So Jen's been doing art to kind of I brought back some of the art recently with the buttons. Going through a crafty phase, and then I shut it down. And now I'm back to buttoning. And then
those are a big hit. I made some really cute buttons. And that was for the Bond County Pride event?
Yeah. So Jen and I colored, together when those colored buttons. And then Jen does her own art and she goes over to the Mac. Sometimes you have done that. You're taking classes and such. So you're creating stuff that way. Oh goodness. Are we not plugged in? Somehow that thing is not plugged in. So it's not plugged into a power outlet.
Testes, testes, 1, 2. Testing, testing, 1, 2.
And we're back.
We're back.
Yeah, we've had a wardrobe change. Some time may or may not have passed, but you'll never know. So I think we were about to talk about my experience at the Macoupin Art Center.
Yes, we were.
Yes. Talking about connection through art. That was a really transformational time for me, going to the MAC, as it's called, and taking an art class, sitting across from Miss Ruthie, who's one of the instructors, allowed me to just be present. But then really mostly what art has done for me is at home, I've used what's called autonomic art, where I just put paint on paper and then I go back and sort of make meaning out of how the paint looked. And so I would draw around it. Anyway, that's probably more information than anybody cares to listen to on this podcast or anywhere else, but it helped me work through it. And it has been really transformational in my life. And sometimes I actually am kind of good at it. But the funny part about art is that the more I walk away from it, the more I like it. So anyway,
Well, I think finding that connection with the people in that building has been very therapeutic and a growing experience for you to take that home and the time that you need to go in your room and be in that space and create something has been life-changing.
It has been life-changing. And I think that I would have told you a couple of years ago, I'm not a creative person. I don't have a creative bone in my body is certainly something I've been saying, but really it was about a lack of freedom within myself. I think that once I started pushing myself to, I guess, just get out of that comfort zone of perfection. What I create has to be something that someone else would desire.
True, I could see that.
Yeah, it's like if someone else wouldn't desire what I create, what's the point in creating it? And for a while, I was like, why am I creating art? And I'm never going to sell art. I'm never going to do that. And so why am I doing this? And the answer was for me. But
and me.
I have given Amy some framed art. She's the only one who owns any Jen Whittaker framed art. But really, I think this is an important point. At least it was for me. It was to get past the point of thinking, what am I doing this for? I'm not doing it for anything except for the pleasure of it. And once I sort of gave myself that freedom to do it just because I enjoyed it, I was able to move differently in my art space. And so now all of a sudden I have this art studio with supplies. And when I get inspired, I can just go and create art. And so I've done different collages and I've done paintings and all kinds of things, gifts. Recently, I went out and picked dandelions after they had...
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
They went from the yellow dandelion, they closed back up. But before they opened up to the fluff, you pick those, you then thread them and let them bloom, and then you spray glue on them. And so now I have this pretty dandelion puff chain. And so it's just small things, and it's really helping with my mental health, just knowing that I can do something for myself. So,
right. So you have the space in the mat and you have the space at home.
Now, I do want to say, though, let's just say that you don't have any space at home and you're thinking, this doesn't apply to me. When I first started painting, I painted at a table in my kitchen. And I just picked up all the supplies in a box and put them in a closet. And so it's not like you need to be an empty nester with an extra room to create. But I had to push myself to sit across from Miss Ruthie when I was actually feeling panic.
Right.
And
You were
just
pretty broken then.
I was really broken then. It was about a year ago, maybe a little bit less. And I had just gone through a really traumatic experience in my family where I wasn't okay, and it really helped me. But I had to push myself to do it. I had to drive the 30 minutes to the class. I felt like I was having a panic attack. I admitted it to Miss Ruthie and said, can you just sit with me and paint and it'll pass? And it did. At home, I have to tell myself, go do the thing, and it helps. So our point here is finding friendship and connection through all of these different things, serving others, authentic connections with people, animals, nature, and then finding creativity. And this creativity part was something that I never would have thought would have worked for me. And it has become such a big part of my life. And I'm just sort of delighted with myself about it. Like, who the hell am I? I'm not an artist, but
Right. To
I
make
am.
something and think people may like it. I get that. I have been creative at the PFLAG outlet, like I would make patches on my embroidery machine of all the different kinds of flags for the LGBTQ community. Maybe I'll fire that back up. I did move it to the basement.
I know. I'm so excited about the plans for your crafting area in the basement.
I got a craft room now.
Oh my God.
Look at the growth.
I'm serious.
And then, so lately we were making buttons and being very creative in the colors of the buttons for them to be flags, but you wouldn't know, like the lesbian flag and the French flags.
Kind of down low representation because of the climate that we're in.
I like to call it subtle.
Yeah, I'm very subtle. I mean, people often describe me.
Subtle.
Often people use the word subtle to describe me.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely a high priority for me to fly under the radar.
Yes, that's where I had my creativity too and connection, because people come for those buttons and they're like, oh, and some of the little kids don't know what they picked up as a bicolor teddy bear pin. The adults do, and they see it. So we make connections and we talk there. And so.
Yeah. What just came to mind to say right now is that if we lived in an inclusive society, we wouldn't need to have these buttons and separate things out, whether it's subtle or in your face. If people were just allowed to be who they are, they wouldn't necessarily.
You wouldn't need a whole month.
Right.
To acknowledge your rights and existence.
Right. But clearly we do need it because LGBTQ people are less safe now. I mean, we know that. If you look at the headline of the Bell News Democrat, I'm talking about the O'Fallon, Illinois school district doing gender ideology stuff. And
the DOJ coming after them.
Yeah, the DOJ is going after District 90.
Because, we're letting trans people pee.
Right. We're letting people be who they are. And so I've recently realized I am pro self-identification. That's it. So I'm not just, pro LGBTQ. I am pro self-identification.
You tell me who you are in all aspects.
Yes.
Sure.
And if it's not okay with me because I personally am not comfortable, then I will not be in relationship with you. Yeah. But I still support your right to self-identify.
Sure.
That's it. Yeah. So that's how we have found friendship in this crazy time. And I hate the times we're living in. And I'm so grateful for the clarity. And I think part of how I'm surviving this time is to really look at what has gotten better for me. And really it's authenticity and clarity of how I want to spend my time and who I want to spend it with.
100%. One thing I thought of today as I was getting ready for this and thinking about finding joy just in miserable times.
Yeah.
Sure, this isn't as bad as it could be, but certainly people all over the world are experiencing very difficult times, and somehow they're living and they're getting through it. So we need to remember that we've just got to live through this and get through it and find a way.
Yeah, we do. We do. I don't have religious beliefs, but I do believe in the pendulum swinging back to good. I think that obviously this is a huge reaction to the Obama presidency and to a global movement of, a global progressive movement. And now we're seeing this backlash of the regression. But people have survived really bad times before. And our bad times are not unique. They're just ours.
Right.
Yeah.
So in our own space, we got to just get through it.
Yeah, we have to get through it. And we do that again by serving others and taking care of ourselves. So that's what we do.
I agree.
we now have our first happy or chappy segment.
Oh,
Are you
shoot.
prepared?
It doesn't appear. Okay, I left my happy in another place.
Yeah. Would you like to come up with another one?
I guess so.
Yeah.
Oh, can I talk about my happiness yesterday?
So, Amy, are you happy or chappy?
Girl, I'm happy.
Tell me
I
everything.
went to the rally yesterday.
Where?
From Springfield. It was LGBTQ Advocacy Day. Should have worn the shirt. And so I go every year. I like to say I go to see Che. He's the one that runs this, Jose Wilson, and I stay for the fun. So I enjoyed the rally. I had a big surprise. Che brought me my stepsister's son, who he is married to. And so
Che is married to Sam? You did not tell me that.
it's a lot. So there were a lot of
moving parts. So your stepsister's child. So basically your nephew, your step-nephew, basically.
Yeah. He was there. He lives in Chicago. I've only met him once or twice ever, and he's just a gem. But anyway, Sam is the best, and he showed up, and I just put him in my pocket with all my other special people. So I got to hang out with Sam. I saw Dylan Blaha.
Yay,
Gave him a
Dylan
big
Blaha.
hug. Oh my God. I saw Demi. That's the one he runs around with. And she is running, I believe, up in Chicago. She made the primary. We rallied. We held signs. We heard great speakers, which is the part I really go for. We ran around a little bit in the office buildings to try and track down people, representatives and state Senate stuff who never make themselves available. So I was expecting that. I told everyone, I'll do it, but I know they're not going to be there. They weren't there, of course.
Of course not.
So
because representatives hide from their constituents.
They know that we were coming. It's LGBTQ.
Democrats too, everybody. Don't start thinking it's just the Republicans. Democrats hide from constituents.
I've got a name that I could tell you who was not there. She was not there.
Is that Katie Stewart?
It might have been, yes. So they were all busy. But, I know Katie is an ally.
Yeah.
That's great. But anyway, back to the rally. So I didn't want to run around, but we ran and accomplished nothing. And then we came back. I said, well, let's at least get our free lunch. So we ate our free lunch, stayed for a little performance afterwards, and then we snuck out. But what a great day. I did stay longer than I normally do.
I'm so glad you went. And I'm sorry that I wasn't able to go, but I'm really glad that you went. And I think that those rallies are for the allies and the people who are working for equality. It's really, in my opinion, so much for actually doing the lobbying.
Right.
There are paid people who do that lobbying. And what you're there for, or what I went for last year when we had our first face-to-face meeting, our first date, what I went for was for myself to be counted in the number who's standing up.
It fills your cup.
Yeah,
you
it does.
are there to fill your cup because you're with your people.
Yeah.
It was 120 people this year.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And then those 120 people take it back to their communities and spread that love. Yeah.
Seeds.
So it's not a bad thing if you don't get to talk to a representative.
No. And I've only talked to 2 in the 3 to 4 times that I've ever.
Yeah.
Met great people. Saw lots of people that I know. Mike Siri, who's moved over from Equality, Illinois, over to Planned Parenthood, gave a big hug, got a card, promptly dropped it in the toilet. But I'll find him. Don't worry.
Was that on purpose or no?
No.
Yeah.
So it was great to see my peeps.
Good.
And what are you? Are you happy?
So I think I'm probably chappy most of the time, and then I turn it into happy. So I'm going to tell you what happened today. I was driving over to Amy's house, and I'm having a great morning. I started my morning out on the deck and lots of outside time and just feeling really great. And I exit the highway, and this red F-150 with boating equipment attached stopped at the green light. Lights solid green, and he stops. And so I honk. I don't go honk. I go honk, 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 honk. And
It was a message.
he went ahead and turned, and then he slowed down to yell at me, which, is a blast. And so it was this white dude, and he's, yelling at me, giving me the finger and all this. And I said, green means go. And he kept yelling at me, and I said, green means go. And then I said, green means go, dumbass. And it was a damn delight. So am I happy or am I chappy? I guess I'm chappy that dude didn't know green means go. And then he got mad when I taught him. I mean, you're welcome, right? But then I'm happy because it was so much fun to have him yell at me and for me to just be like, green means go, dumbass. So I'm chappy, then I'm happy. It's kind of complicated with me.
Mix.
Yeah, it's a mix. That's pretty much Jen. You never know what you're going to get.
That's all right. Reach into the bag with your.
I do. And I'm like, which personality do I want to show you today? That one? No, I'm just going to go like this. Green means go, dumbass. So, yeah. So I thought I was doing him a great big service by teaching him how to fucking drive.
Always a good time.
Yeah. So I'm chappy and happy, Amy.
Good. Nice job, Jen.
All right. Thank you. And so that was our first episode of Happy or Chappy. And we're going to keep bringing that to you. But thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, indeed, and putting up with us.
Yeah.
But it looks like my work here is done.
I think your work here is done. Amy, that's two. That's two.
We're going to do the third one today.
No, I don't. They don't need to see us.
No, we don't want to show you any behind the scenes.
No behind the scenes. I think we might do a tour of the lounge. Okay. Bye, friends. We don't really know how to close this. So we'll just say bye.
Adios.